Welcome to the Scorezle podcast, where athletes from college stars to pros share their secrets. We bring you and your child's game the tips, tricks, and insider pointers to level up and unlock the magic within. On today's episode, we're joined by Abby Carchio, former Brown University soccer captain, international player. Abby's sharing her journey from youth sports to the professional level, and she has some powerful advice for young athletes about balancing academics, overcoming injuries, and finding the magic within. Plus, she'll reveal how a shovel and snow helped shape her commitment to the game. All that and more coming up. Stay tuned.
Look, this that Scorezle magic, nothing average. If you can dream it, then you can have it. On and off the field, you know the deal. Keep your head in the game and you rise for real. Go.
All right, cool. Welcome into the Scorezle podcast. We have hosts Kenny and Seth with us today. On today's special episode, we have guest Abby Carchio. She's a professional and collegiate soccer player, which we'll definitely get into. But a little bit of background about her. Again, a youth soccer player in the state of Massachusetts, starting at the young age of 5, but then went on to Brown University, where she was the captain of the 2019 championship season. After that, a little bit international play, playing in France, Denmark, Iceland, Lithuania, and Ireland. Abby, here at Scorezle, we seek to inspire youth within the sport of their choice. And we're looking to provide an outlet to support parents and young athletes to work hard, foster teamwork, and keep up that passion for sports, no matter where their journey brings them. So that's why we bring you on, Abby, because you have a lot of experience with that. So in your words, Abby, is there anything I missed, or back to the youth sports of soccer as you grew up? What did that journey look like for you?
Yeah, I think you nailed my complete bio. I appreciate that. Youth sports really looked like more than just soccer. A lot of people see, professional soccer player and they assume I only ever touched the soccer ball, but I was happy to do every and any sport out there. I played baseball, taekwondo, did dance, basketball. So I was really just an athletic kid who also fell in love with the game of soccer. So started my journey in Massachusetts, like you said, at the young age of 5, and then progressed and got a little bit more competitive once I hit about 13 years old.
Awesome. So take me back to those youth days, more from the family perspective. As you grew up, what did the family atmosphere look like? Who was encouraging you to participate in these sports, and what was inspirational about what they did?
Yeah, so I'm really blessed with a great family. My parents both did sports growing up. They weren't these like overarching sports fiends, let's say. They just kind of enjoyed being out on the pitch, whether that's on a basketball court. It didn't really matter. My parents were just excited that we were into sports. I have 2 siblings who both played, like me, every sport in the book. And so we actually had a really, really encouraging environment. And my parents who, in their profession work with children, they were very cognizant and aware of how to be supportive parents and kind of step away from the pressure aspect that a lot of parents fall into.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, so I'm going to one more there, Abby. With that as the backdrop and you really participating in multiple sports, how did you balance that? How did you balance seeking perfection to be a soccer player, but also being a well-rounded athlete into different sports?
Yeah, again, I have to shout out both of my parents who worked full time. They were so generous in driving us every single practice, every place. We oftentimes had 2 or 3 practices in one evening. And so for the logistics of it, my parents were really supportive in that. But in terms of balancing the different sports for me, it really was just about, and we talk a lot about it in the professional career, time management and sectoring off certain times for each thing. I actually, from a young age, the age of 10, had a journal where I would keep my scheduling in, which is a bit rare, and perhaps a bit neurotic. However, I found that really to help me keep things organized when I had so many different activities going on. But at the end of the day, at that young age, I just loved playing. I was passionate about playing sports. And aside from that, it really didn't put too much pressure on me in terms of scheduling.
That's very impressive, Abby, the journaling at the age of 10. Because I'm even thinking a bit deeper as a parent of two children that are in sports right now. There's balancing the sports, but there's also academics and social life pressures. So could you expand upon that a little bit? Maybe some tips for parents out there that are listening?
Absolutely. And I think we're walking into the territory of burnout, which has become more prevalent as, sports become monetized and things like that from a young age. And so I thought that my parents did a great job of when I'd started to feel a bit overwhelmed with something, maybe I had too many games that week. It was okay to miss one practice. It wasn't the end of the world. And so that was important. And when you tie in the academic side of things, going to Brown University, when you have that student athlete experience, I really attribute my success collegiately to the way that I was brought up through my youth, in that, sports are really important, but school is also integral to your success. And so finding that balance between the two. There are also some tips and tricks that we can get into regarding, listen, you've got a 40-minute car ride to one of your soccer trainings. That's a perfect time, unless you have car sickness, to be getting some of your homework in or to be doing some study work. So just really trying to be efficient in a tight schedule is what I would advise.
Hey, talk a little bit about food and diet. When you're so busy, when you get out of school at 2:30, 3:30 in the afternoon, and you're practicing or traveling far distances for games, any ideas on what happened as you grew up as a child on how to be efficient around diets and food and proper dinner?
Oh, yeah. So while I did praise my parents on a few other things, looking back in retrospect, this area is not our strong suit in the Carchio household. It's honestly insane to think, okay, we're on the go. We just grab like pizza for dinner or, these sugar-filled snacks. I'm a bit of not obsessed, but I do really pay attention to my diet these days. And it's quite crazy to think back to those times. And so if I were to do it over again, I really do value, I guess this is more on the parent side of things, meal prepping has been really successful in my professional career for myself. It just takes the load off when you're constantly on the go. You don't really have time to make the wisest decisions. That's something that I'm still working on to this day. And hopefully if I have children that play sports, I'll integrate that a little bit better in the future.
That's amazing. That's amazing. One element of Scorezle, one of our values and one of our themes, Abby, is really as a youth athlete, sometimes different children struggle with different elements. Some of it could be anxiety. Some of it could be nerves, courage, bravery, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many elements. So we like to focus on the magic that's within, right? So we have different stories that we share where there's different elements that the children believe are the magic until they find out they found their own internal magic that help them power through. So as a young athlete playing multiple sports, becoming a professional, starting your coaching career, what was your magic?
Yeah, I love that messaging. And it's so important to find that. And it would be so beneficial to find that at an early age, especially when you're going through difficult times, to kind of go back and to use your words, find your magic. I think for me as a young player, I had two elements to it. I always went back to rely on my passion for the game. I knew it from a very young age. And I think passion can be a big word just to say like your love, your genuine love for the game and how it makes you feel when you play it. I think that can be lost a lot. But if you use that kind of as a root, I find that to give me a lot of magic per se. When I'm going through something difficult, I always sit down, self-reflect and think, okay, why am I playing this game? Okay, it's because I'm passionate and I have this love and joy for it. The second element of my magic that's a little bit more practical is with my trainer. I grew up with a trainer who I've worked with for the last 14 years. We always went back to our training as the basis, knowing that I've put the time in, I've put the work in, allows me in those bigger moments or in those moments where I might feel a bit anxious to go back to that and say, yes, 100%, I've put the training in, and that kind of supports me on and gives me the confidence to tackle anything in my way.
Wow. That's awesome, Abby. I want to piggyback off that word passion and all that training that you do. When I think of youth sports, there's so much pressure to get better and better each day and each season. And I want to come to like injuries. An injury or my kiddos play hockey and a broken wrist or something like that puts you out for the rest of the season. Is there a story that you have of overcoming adversity. And what would you say to a 7 to 12-year-old that may also be knocked out for a season and how to overcome that?
Yeah, I do have a bit of a story here. Right now, I'm actually going through an ACL injury, so I'm not quite on the other side of that yet, but I do have a story from my collegiate years. It was my senior year, the year that I captained the team, and I ended up having a bone spur in my foot, which needed surgery to remove. In college, the season is quite condensed, so you have about 3 months to play. And it was my senior season. It was an opportunity to win a championship that hadn't been done in 25 years. And so it was this devastating news that I was going to have to sit out for the first half of the season because of this injury in hopes that I could play the second half. And so I learned a lot about patience in that time period, which is a hard thing. I'm still learning about that. But through an injury, I think being patient isn't just a waiting game. It's in the waiting, there's a lot of growth that can be had. So I was able to work on things like my mental durability, my strength in the weight room, things that were off the field because of my injury I couldn't do. And so I think through an injury and through that patience, there is growth. And the story does have a bit of a good ending. So I was able to, because of that patience and because of that growth, when I did come back in the second half of the season, I was able to have one of my best finishes to a season and was able to actually score the penalty kick to win our team the championship game. And so it is a bit of a fairy tale story, and I'm fortunate to have it in my life. But I think it's just a testament to the patience, and instead of, receding in that waiting period, actually taking advantage of it and growing in aspects that we wouldn't otherwise be growing in. So I'm very familiar with the injury side of things. And my biggest piece of advice is just utilize that period of time as best as you can.
Awesome. Thank you, Abby. That's great.
Yeah, we wish you the best of luck with that ACL injury. Hopefully recovery will happen soon. That's an incredible story around passion and the magic from within that we talked about. And speaking of passion, Abby, I heard during the winter months in New England, we're also from New England, lots of snow. I've heard a story of you out there shoveling the pitch to get out there and to practice. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, that's funny. I'm curious where you dug that one up. This is a true story, and all New Englanders will know this. Fortunately, now most fields can be plowed, but this has happened on multiple occasions. So with my club team, NEFC in Massachusetts, we had a coach who loved football and wouldn't stop for anything. And so we did have about 6 inches of snow on the Ashland pitch in Massachusetts. And instead of canceling training, he said, everybody bring a shovel and we're going to etch out, a grid for us to play in. And that's a true story. So I remember we probably practiced for about 10 minutes because it took us so long to shovel, but it was a good instance of character building. And I've done it one other time on my own when I tried to get some touches by myself. So this was a little less snow, but same principle. So it's a New Englander thing, I would say.
Yes, that's incredible passion. And speaking of that, when you're thinking about youth athletes that are into football/soccer, what would you say are some of your favorite drills that they should practice at home to advance their game and skill set?
Yeah, I might deviate from the question a bit, but I think the best thing young players can do is watch high-level soccer. It's really accessible these days on the women's side and the men's side to just pop on the TV. It's honestly uses less energy to sit on the couch, but I promise you that you can learn so much from watching the game, watch your favorite player, get a team that you feel passionate of supporting. I think that the patterns we subconsciously pick up by watching the game does a lot more for us than honestly going out for a run or something like that within soccer specifically. But if I were to advise one drill or something to do, it's juggling. It's a really simple tool to use on the soccer field. A lot of people say, oh, you don't juggle in a game. But in my eyes, it's less about using that skill in a game and more about ball manipulation. And so learning how to manipulate that ball, juggling is a great start. So twofold, I would say I would encourage kids to watch the game as much as possible. And then if you got 10 minutes extra, go out and juggle using both your left and your right feet only.
That's great advice, Abby. And my son will be thanking you personally when he gets more screen time.
Oh, I don't know if I should be apologizing to you or supporting your son.
No, that's great advice. That's great advice. Seth, time for one more question before we move on.
Okay, then I'm going to move Abby into the coaching realm as you move from player to coach. Okay, so I want you to shed some wisdom for our youth soccer players on what core values or behaviors, attributes, what are you looking for players that are younger than you coming up and you're now going to be coaching them? What makes an excellent teammate or soccer player that you could speak to our youth about?
Yeah, I think the first value to highlight is work ethic. I think it's overused in the sense that, it's the kid that's running the fastest or running the hardest. But I actually think work ethic is something that's very controllable and can be used in not just a physical sense, but also the mental sense. So that means coming to training on time every day or even early. That means being prepared. Make sure you're listening to your coach when they're speaking to you. All of these different aspects, I think, integrate work inside of it. And I think if you control that and if you bring 100% of what you have in the tank every day, that sets you up for success. And so my first value would be work ethic. My second one, and I've touched on it before, would be passion. And so rooting yourself in a love for the game. Sometimes you're not going to want to be at training. I've had those days before, but remembering that you're so fortunate to be enjoying the beautiful game with your friends, hopefully. So passion would be the second. And the third ties into being a good teammate. And I would say it's compassion. And so compassion to me is looking at a fellow teammate and trying to understand what they're going through, whether that's a high or a low. I find that compassion towards others allows us to, again, understand a bit more, which just makes us a better teammate holistically and allows us to help them in times of need and support them in times of joy.
Awesome.
Well
Thank you, Abby.
Well said. Abby, since a large part of our audience are children,
Here we go. Ask the pro, learn and grow. Tips and tricks from the best. Get ready, put skills to the test.
Seth and I had reached out to a couple children that play soccer to ask if you had one question to ask a professional soccer player, what would that be? So I hope we don't throw you any curveballs, but we have two questions. So the first question is from Hayden in Willimantic, Connecticut. And her question is, how many goals have you scored during your career?
Oh, Hayden, what a good question. Oh my gosh. Honestly. So for context, I'm an attacking center mid, so I should have a decent amount of goals. I know collegiately I scored 16 goals total. So I think I scored just as many on my left as my right. That's my claim to fame. Professionally, I moved more to a defensive role, but I would probably say about 10 goals. I'm more of an assister. So I find value in making that final pass, but to give you a short answer, probably, 16, 10, around there.
That's great. Thanks, Abby. And then question number 2 comes from Emery, also in Willimantic, Connecticut. Her question is, what is it like to play soccer as a pro?
Oh, Emery, good question. The way I'll describe it is a dream come true. When I was about 5 years old, I was doing a school project. They asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I wrote, I wanted to be a professional soccer player. And to make that dream a reality is surreal and, just really amazing. I'll also say playing professionally overseas, so in Europe, has given me some of the best friends that I've ever had. Friends from different backgrounds and different experiences, and I value that. So professional soccer has been everything that I hoped it would be.
Great. Thanks, Abby. I'm sure Emery will appreciate that. All right. So your career has been amazing. We appreciate you being on here, listening to you and doing research on you. And really, as we talked about the core values of Scorezle and what we're trying to do with youth athletes, you really epitomize that, from sportsmanship, passion, to compassion, work ethic, to everything that you just mentioned. And what we have done is we've created your own Scorezle card and we would like to invite you into the Scorezle family. So I will share that with you in just a moment here. So if you give me 1 second. All right, Abby, want to see your reactions here. Abby also.
That is unreal. I was not expecting that. I love the green element, my number. Oh, you guys have nailed it. That's too funny. I love it.
That's awesome. So welcome to the family. This will be produced on our next run, so we'll have to get you a copy. But before we move on, I have to ask about the number 5. And the reason I have to ask is, ironically, my son is number 5. It's a legacy number in our family. He took that from his mom, who played sports up through college, who was number 5. So I know a lot of times a number is significant. Just wondering what the number 5 means to you, Abby.
Yeah, so the origin story is a bit basic. When I was 5 years old, that's when I started playing youth soccer. I saw the jersey. I said, oh, that's my age. So I grabbed the number 5. But then as I got into my, older years, every team that I was on, I just wanted number 5. And then I was given the nickname to mimic Cristiano Ronaldo, CR7. I was given with my initials AC5. And so I kind of rolled with that. It was a nickname through college. Some people still reference it. And that's why every time I can in my professional career, I try and get the number 5.
That's great. AC5. We might have to add that to the card with your approval, Abby.
Yeah, perhaps. You guys can go for it. You've done an excellent job already.
That's great. So we've asked a lot of questions, Abby. We just want to give you the opportunity to speak about what you're doing for the Women's Professional Soccer Football League. We know that you're very involved. We know that you have your own podcasts. So can you give an opportunity to share with others how they can learn more about you and more about those podcasts?
Absolutely. So for the last 2 years, I've been fortunate enough to co-host a women's soccer podcast called Megged with my best friend and ex-teammate, Sydney Cummings. And so you can listen to that on anywhere you get your podcast. We go over a range of topics, all pertaining to the women's game internationally and domestically. And then one of my recent endeavors with this new women's soccer league coming into America called the USL Super League, I've been fortunate enough to be a co-host on a spin-off series at the Spokane Soccer Show podcast with my co-host Benji. And we talk about the new team that's coming up out in Spokane, Washington, a little bit about the league in itself and soccer in general. So you can listen to that one anywhere you get your podcast. That's the Spokane Soccer Show, specifically the USL Super League spinoff.
That's great. Thanks, Abby. I can personally vouch for everyone listening that I've listened to your podcasts, and they're very informational, and it's great material. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Abby. This has been incredible. We truly appreciate your time, and just wondering if you have any final thoughts or messages to our listeners.
Yeah, I love what you guys are doing, and I hope that all of your consumers and listeners are just finding whatever their sport is, finding that passion that really drives us. And I hope that the parents that follow you guys understand how important sport is and make sure that their kids are enjoying themselves as the primary reason that they're playing. Anything else is really superfluous. So enjoyment of the game should be our primary goal. And yeah, I encourage everyone to extract as much out of sport as they possibly can.
Thank you, Abby. You shared so much wisdom today, from the importance of passion and patience to the value of work ethic. Remember, like Abby said, sport should always be about enjoyment first and foremost. If you're a young athlete or a parent listening, focus on what truly matters. Having fun, growing as a person, and finding your own magic within. Thanks again to Abby for being part of the Scorezle family. Be sure to keep an eye out for her exclusive Scorezle card. Awesome Abby coming soon. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to check out her podcasts Meg and the Spokane Soccer Show. And as always, subscribe to the Scorezle podcast, leave a review, and follow us for more inspiring stories. Keep playing, keep dreaming, and we'll see you next time.
Look, this that Scorezle magic, nothing average. If you can dream it, then you can have it. On and off the field, you know the deal. Keep your head in the game and you rise for real. Go feel the beat and let it flow. Tell the world, make sure they know. Just work hard, let let your talent show. Can't stop where we bout to go, no. Teamwork make the dream work. Together we achieve more, that's some real worth. With every single cheer and shout, we show 'em what we bout. No matter what the sport, they can't count you out. And with scores side by side, let's make a pact to win and blow they mind. No matter what we face, you know we got each other's back. In the game or in life, and it's just like that. A little bit of soul and faith is all it takes to reach the top in this game. Confidence will put you in a better place. See it through every step of the way. It's that Scorezle magic, nothing average. If you can dream it, then you can have it. On and off the field, you know the deal. Keep your head in the game and you rise for real. Feel the beat and let it flow. Tell the world, make sure they know. Just work hard, let your talent show. Can't stop where we bout to go, no. Just believe and achieve, and join the Scorezle team. Yeah, dig.